Previously on Story Hoard.
As the three of you hear the booming voices of the gods of storm and harvest, Memori Sidaris is chasing after you. Three more temple attendants turn out and see what's going on. You must be young Master Mateo. The storm god would like a word with you, I believe.
Hey, let my friend go!
You have been summoned by the gods of storm and harvest, and so you shall sit with an audience for the gods of storm and harvest.
I think we've had enough here.
As the gods of storm and harvest are now inhabiting these two sidewalk shrines. Beware of those teachers of yours. Their unaging reign is due to be interrupted. You see a weedy-looking man in his late 20s with a big backpack, some missized clothing on him, and a bright red banner off of his backpack.
Aebis, we got your stuff back.
Memori, maybe we should talk some more private about this.
Can Memori, quick check in on Sildra? What am I saying? Okay, Memori walks over back to Sildra. Hey, that fight back there was a lot, huh?
Yeah, it was a lot.
You doing okay? You seem,
Fine.
I don't know.
I'm fine. Trust me. They kind of go quiet a bit and just kind of look down at their feet while they walk.
Concern! Memori has concern! But also Memori's not good at talking. So she's going to catch up to Aebis and Mateo, but not before, I don't know, giving Sildra a pat on the back. And
Sildra,
then off.
Sildra kind of straightens up, oh, I was not expecting that.
It was a gentle pat. It wasn't an aggressive pat. I just want to make that clear.
I wasn't imagining an aggressive pat, but they're just they were not expecting that from Memori. They were like, oh, that's not what I calculated. No. What?
Does not compute. You entered an unknown number.
Basically.
Alright, sure.
Memori,
Yay, do we get to the library? Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. You kind of hurry up to Mateo and Aebis, who Aebis has no real inclination to want to socialize with Mateo much. He was weirdly aggressive towards him. Aebis has no idea what you've been through, Mateo. All he knows is you're rude to him before and you're being very rude to him now, so he is laser focused on getting up to the library in probably a comedically better spirits than you walking directly next to him as he catches your eye, Memori, and he says, yeah, so it's been really wonderful. Aside from getting lost, when I was asking for directions, I was able to gather some additional information about this place. Did you guys know that this library is older than the town? It's really fascinating. There's really not very many places around here that have lasted as long as just this one library has. It's really, really fascinating.
Yeah, it's really old. So, do you get around, a lot? Where are you from?
He kind of smiles. He says, well, I'm from a little bit further east. I grew up in Sunback, the big port town right on the ocean. I'm used to, definitely busier city living than this quaint little town. But yeah, I grew up there, and it's a big port town, so there was all sorts of culture and people coming in from all over the world, visiting, traveling, bringing in new languages and ideas. And so in a place like that, I always loved, hearing those stories of other places and of other things. I became a historian. When you're surrounded by that kind of stuff and you just want to keep learning more and more, that's kind of the ideal career path, I guess. And once I realized that's what I wanted to do, and once I had kind of learned everything that Sunback had to offer for me, I hit the road a few years back and have been a traveling anthropologist.
Wow, fascinating.
It really is.
You're just a wealth of information. Speaking of information, so when exactly were you had your things taken from you? Because these were taken like months ago, but we met you, and how long have you had this stupid flag on your back?
So Aebis was talking very quickly and saying a lot of things because he got so excited that someone had taken an interest in his life. And you get the sense that people don't always ask him these kinds of nice personal questions. Mateo, you ask him that, and his mouth snaps shut, and his relatively pale face goes bright pink as he looks straight ahead and says, "If you must know, we had our first run-in several months back, yes, and I've been determined to get my things back from them ever since. So every time I happen to come across one of their advertisements, I may or may not have gone out of my way to seek them out in order to reclaim my relics."
That's understandable.
Thank you. Yes, it is. Something stolen from you, you want to get it back. It only makes sense, especially with regards to these particular relics. And he kind of gestures to Mateo's backpack because you guys have not given him his relics back.
Yeah, Mateo adjusts the bag so it's like further away from him.
His eyebrows kind of crease together. He says, I worked really hard to find those things in the first place, and the fact that they're just out of reach really is this necessary? Like,
I just want to have a conversation first.
okay, we're talking.
Yeah.
What?
No, let's go we're at the library, I want to go somewhere a little more secluded, and I want to go to is there some kind of study room or just place that's more out of the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Mateo, you know this library pretty much inside out for the amount of time you've spent in here over the last several years. You know all of the public sort of study spaces, the places where people tend to congregate, places where individuals might find a quiet space to sit and read and do research. And you know the exact right spaces to sit a group of 4 of you in relative privacy to have this conversation. You have to navigate around several tall shelves in essentially mini alleyways throughout this massive library. And the deeper in you get into this just huge building, the natural light that is pouring through the statement piece of a massive rose window at the top face of the building, that natural light fades away the deeper you get in and is gradually replaced by small candles and torches as you navigate your way into one of the deeper lower levels of the library. It's one of the restricted sections that Athatria has given you special permission to enter. And you lead everyone towards a very quiet back corner, one of your frequented study tables in particular.
Alright, this should be good enough. So what are these things?
Can I have them? And maybe I can explain them to you? I don't understand what this is all about. I mean, thank you for retrieving my relics from the very mean clown man. unless there's any particular reason that you want them, why are we in the bowels of an absolutely fascinating structure? Don't get me wrong. This is an
Yes, you can be a tourist later, okay? So we want answers about what these are, because the last time that these were out of the bag, literally, they caused, I don't want to say explosion because we've literally seen more impressive explosions, but a wave of magical energy that was weird, to put it lightly.
He kind of leans forward as you're describing this situation that happened in Nasti's workshop. He says, "Wait, they activated? They did something? They finally decide to do something, and it's when I'm not there for. Of course. Well, wait. Describe exactly what happened. How did they react? Did they smell like anything? Tell me. And he is now, like, on the edge of his seat. And he's, like, going over your working space, Mateo, and grabbing, like, stray pieces of paper and a piece of charcoal and trying to take notes now.
Careful with the ink.
Yep.
Sildra, do you want to tell him?
I mean, I'm not quite sure whether it's a tell.
Well, you're the one who touched it.
I waved around a stick and some big thunder happened, and there was a lot of light and a lot of lightning, and I don't know, like...
It was like a green shockwave, kind of. It smelled terrible.
He's writing down these descriptions. Green. Smells bad.
It's kind of like a rotting.
Aebis?
Yes, Mamori, what?
Mamori has, like, carefully positioned herself on the other side of the room, away from Mateo and the bag, and she's like, what were they supposed to do? Like, where did you find this stuff?
Well, I'll be honest, I'm not quite sure what they're supposed to do.
Great, wonderful.
All I know is that in the time that I've had them, they haven't done anything. You know, I know a magical relic when I see one. There's a certain way these artifacts are treated and crafted that you get a sense that they were made for something more than just being a brooch or, you know, a paperweight or whatever. There's a deeper importance to them. And these relics that I found them in a whole bunch of different places over several years.
Like, where specifically?
He puts the pen and paper down as he starts kind of playing with his hands. He says, the first one, the hand staff, I found stored away in an old storeroom in my university library. It was in a box of other seemingly unimportant relics, but this one was the only one that didn't have any sort of marking or cataloging assigned to it. So I took an interest and tried to see if I couldn't figure out who it belonged to, what civilization, what god, where it came from. I couldn't find anything for it. So I just kind of held on to it. Like I said, it wasn't reacting. It never reacted. It was just a basic stone hand staff. And then a few years down the line, I was at a different temple, and I was helping their head priest go through some old artifacts that they had recovered from one of their recently deceased priests. And in one of the boxes was this brooch. And I recognized it immediately. It's the same kind of stone, same kind of arboreal pattern. And years would go by between me finding these relics in just the strangest places. And the more I tried to research into them, the more I realized that there's no record of where this might have come from. The only connection being that they're not alone. That these things are out there and they came from somewhere, but I don't know where. And so this has been kind of my life's work, trying to nail down where these things came from and just figure out who is behind them. I always imagined that the god these were made for would have been blessed by, would have been created for. They have to be long gone, you know? It's why they're not reactive. But if you're saying that they activated, that they had, you said, a rancid smell to them? And now he's looking a little bit more serious. He says, if they are capable still of having some sort of magical reaction, there's a chance that that god is still out there. That those answers are still out there for me to find.
How much you wanna bet, guys, this is a dead god situation? This is Maddie talking. This sounds like a dead zombie god and he's gonna come and suck the life out of all of us. Mori is not interested. Mori is, like, kinda pressed against the wall and looking, just straight up scared.
So, what you're saying is this could be like a god who either has been like dormant for at least as long as you've been looking for it. This is... I don't know. I don't trust this stuff.
You don't have to. Congratulations, I sat here and answered your questions. I told you everything I know about these fascinating pieces of history. Now can I please have them back so that I can maybe use this incredible trove of, I don't know how many hundreds of years of history must be living in here, but if there's answers anywhere about any of this, it's gotta be here, right?
What are you gonna do with them when you get them back, Aebis?
Well, if everything works out, I'm gonna find where they're from, find who made them. There might be a whole lost kingdom or civilization or something that is behind these, that no one knows about, that no one remembers. And isn't that worth uncovering?
Maybe we should tell Lady Athatria about this.
Who? Pardon? He's kind of looking back at you, Mateo.
Oh, through all your research, you don't even know whose library this is?
He looks away, and he says, the woman who runs this library, you're speaking of the ageless one, correct? That's all I've heard from the talkabouts that I've gathered since trying to get here, that this whole town is secretly run by some ageless weirdos. I mean, I figured the library was just kind of being maintained.
Is that the term that they used in your research?
Not research, gossip at this point. I mean, I'm talking to other people.
You're just reading like gossip magazines.
No, I talk to people. You should try it sometime. You'd be better at it.
I'm doing it right now. Like,
you're doing a shitty job.
We're communicating. We're having a conversation. See, I'm telling you that there's a lady who owns this place who is older than shit and probably knows. Maybe she's heard of this god who hasn't like been active for however many years.
I mean, Mateo, it is his stuff, so, I mean, maybe we just want to give the magic crap back to him. I don't know.
Please. And he's looking at you, Mateo. He's kind of calmed himself down. He just looks tired at this point. And he says, if you want to, I don't know, vet them or me or for whatever reason I'm not passing your whatever standards you have for these things, yeah, I'll talk to whoever. But do you know what it's like to be so close to something that you've wanted for so long, and to just have it be just out of reach. I've spent years working on this thing, on this lead. Please, just let me go back to my work.
You don't have to worry about me wanting this stuff. I am just saying, okay, I don't know if maybe you just don't have like the magic touch that activates these things, or if maybe the clown guy did something to them when he was experimenting on them that has activated them. I don't know. I'm just saying be careful.
He huffs a laugh and he's like, I'm a well-trained documentarian of ancient relics. I know how to be careful with my artifacts.
Right, you're a pencil guy. Mateo just slides over the bag to him.
He pulls it to his chest before very quickly opening up the bag and rifling through and carefully turning over each and every one of those relics in his hand, inspecting them, running his hands over the surface. He says, well, whatever that clown boss wanted with them, they're in pristine condition at least, which is really quite remarkable for stone relics. I mean, these things usually just are begging to get chipped or destroyed, but these things are incredibly hardy. As he's turning over the brooch in his hand and running his fingers over the delicate carved inlay on its surface, he says, and you're sure that these things are the ones that activated? Like, these are the things that gave off a magical reaction. It wasn't anything else that might have triggered them, or they were just, like, next to something going off? You're certain?
Sildra waved around the staff, and then I fell down, okay? That's what happened.
Are you sure this isn't a you problem?
What's that supposed to mean?
I'm just saying...
I'm not anemic.
Well,
what do you...
I don't know. All I know is that I've had these things for years. And for years they have done nothing. And then suddenly you guys have them for 2 minutes, and they're flashing lightning and having weird smells.
Sildra knows how to do magic. Magic's been happening all over the place. I know, it's very surprising when it happens.
And scary.
He's now going through the bag, and he finds the selection of notes that Nasty had thrown in as he was putting everything back together for you guys. And he's going through them. And he kind of furrows his brow, and he's like, actually, these notes are incredibly helpful and thorough. Huh.
Are they? I thought they just said, I don't know what the hell this shit is either.
I mean, they start that way for sure, and he's flipping through.
I think it's a good idea, what Mateo said, to bring them to Lady Athatria, now that they're reunited with you. But I think she'd have some idea of, where they're from, what they're for.
At the very least, it's her library, and most of the aides here are shit.
Oh, and you would know, wouldn't you?
Yes, I'm the best one.
Well, if that's the case, and my only options are shit aides and you, then yes, I think I will go seek out the woman in charge, if you don't mind. And he gets up to try and find his way back to the main area of the library.
Mamori follows him. Aebis, do you mind if I come with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Interested in potentially uncovering a lost mystery kingdom?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Top of the list of things I wanted to do with my day.
Big smile.
Yes. Mamori smiles back with pain in her eyes, but also smile. Yeah, Mamori's gonna follow Aebis.
Alright. Mateo and Sildra, are you coming along, or do you guys have your own plans for the day?
Mateo's having a sit right now. When he sees Momori go off after him, he's like, "Oh well, good. At least you won't get lost for another 2 days."
Or mugged by clowns. Yeah, Soldier's gonna stay back and just hang out with Mateo for a bit, because they need to sit down. They're tired.
Time for a therapy session with Mateo and Sildra.
I don't know if that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't think either of these are the therapy type.
They're just gonna sit in a room and not talk about their problems.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
Yep.
We can come back to Sildra and Mateo in a minute. Right now, Momori, how well do you know this library? How often have you?
No. Momori doesn't step foot in here. Let's. Should we roll for it? Or should I just tell you what I think in character? What's about right?
Go ahead and roll for it, just because I wasn't thinking about asking you to roll for it, but now the idea is in my brain. So roll to see how well you remember the way you got here. Because if Momori's not used to being in this library, Mateo took some real back road paths to get to where you guys were at.
Well, I got a 16, which is better than what I was going to say about my character.
Okay.
So I guess she just has an innate sense of direction.
Yeah, Momori, as Mateo was leading the four of you back towards his little study hall, you were pretty well keeping an eye on your surroundings, and you were able to navigate the various tall shelves and tight corners of Athatria's library. She has a surprising array of tomes and scrolls and artifacts lining all of these shelves, so it was easy enough for you to kind of pick out landmarks as you were making your way through. And as a result, you maybe don't take the fastest route back, as you kind of have to double check every other row to make sure that you are where you are trying to get to. But eventually you manage to bring the both of you back to a more well-lit section of the main part of the library. And the whole time that you're kind of leading this journey back, Aebis is looking at every single object, just kind of craning his neck, enjoying the fact that you're taking a slower route. He's not really having to rush to keep up with you, as he stops every other shelf to investigate some other historical artifact or piece of work. And he's got just huge eyes as he's taking it all in.
So, Aebis, what did you study in college?
I was an anthropology student. I studied history and the people of this land. This continent is old, and it went through a lot of periods of wartime and dark times and prosperity times and war times again and rebuilding times. There's been a lot that's happened over the last couple thousand years, at least that's how far back some of my oldest records date back to.
Interesting.
There's just so much to uncover with every dig, with every research into a lead. And this is the first instance of kind of an unknown, unfound kingdom. I gotta admit, that would be super cool to be the person that discovered a lost civilization somewhere. Some really amazing tree-based warrior tribe that, fought monsters and worshipped the ground or something. I don't know.
Momori's been kind of running her hand across the shelves and kind of like peeking at the books too. Like, she's not in a rush either. And she's like, yeah, I guess that'd be super interesting. So the town you grew up in and stuff, it was all pretty peaceful, I gather. You didn't have any problems with the gods at all?
Kind of like blows a bang out of his face. He says, well, Sunback is it's a port town, you know? It's one of the bigger settlements in this part of the continent, so you know, we've got a fair share of temples there, either from passing travelers or from people coming through, and then you know the big god that the settlement kind of revolves around is the god of the North Sea. You know, he's kind of a big deal around those parts, and to be fair, he's kind of a bigger god. I've never had any super bad run-ins with him, but and he kind of shrugs. He's like, you know, gods. I mean, once they get to a certain age, once they have a certain number of worshippers, they're maybe not as gentle with their interactions as some smaller gods might be. He's fine, I guess. I don't know. He's kind of fussing with his backpack straps.
Momori kind of clenches and unclenches her fists, and she's like, yes. I think I do know. Do you mind if I ask you kind of a personal question? I guess it's not that personal.
He straightens up and he's like, sure. Yeah. What do you want to know?
Have you ever done any research or heard of anything in your traveling about curses? Specifically, things that gods have cursed people.
He opens and closes his mouth a couple of times as you ask him that question. He swallows, and he says, yeah, curses, those are tricky, you know? It's the old saying, a curse is merely a blessing we don't understand.
Yeah, I sort of hate that saying. Momori kind of rubs her neck.
He laughs at that. He's like, yeah, I gotta say I'm not the biggest fan of that thought process myself. There are a couple of ways that I've come across as far as managing curses. Some treatments from healers or from other magical types being able to ask on behalf of other gods to undo the work of the one who cursed you or whoever. Breaking curses is a little bit harder. I guess it depends on what the curse is and who it's on and who placed it. Has a lot to do with how potent it is. And he's looking at you, Momori. He seems like he's very carefully turning over the words in his head before he speaks. And he says, is there a particular curse in mind that I can help you with?
Momori hesitates. I'm just looking for general information right now. Like, maybe, but let's figure out these relics first. I guess we're basically back to where we came from. So I'm sure Lady Athatria is around here somewhere.
He looks at you, Momori, with very sincere eyes. As you're speaking, and when you mentioned that you're back towards the main thoroughfare of the library, he kind of looks around and looks back at you, and he says, hey, how about this? We find out where my relics came from, we get to the bottom of that mystery, and then we'll get to the bottom of yours. How about that?
Oh, well, that should be easy. So, absolutely, sure, let's do it. Momori holds out her hand, like, to shake.
He takes your hand in his and gives it a warm squeeze before heading towards a big staircase in the middle of the thoroughfare that leads to the second floor, where Athatria's office is.
Oh, blast, I hope this character isn't a villain. Okay, Mamori follows him.
Let's jump back to Mateo and Sildra. You two are still chilling out in the restricted section, recovering from this morning's events. How are you two holding up?
Mateo has just been, like, resting against the desk with one hand, and then, like, in his other hand, he's just, like, idly fiddling with something.
Sildred's just kind of like leaned back in a chair and he's just staring out the window. So that was a crazy morning, huh?
Insane. Yes.
What's your opinion on that guy that Mamori seems to be, following around?
He seems like kind of meandering, but probably harmless.
He was like that when you met him, too?
Yes, he was a big waste of time, really.
Gotcha.
While you two are kind of going back and forth, you start hearing footsteps approaching your little sitting area.
Mateo shoves whatever he was holding back in his bag.
Okay. Mateo, you pocket your little doodad as you see Lady Athatria running, not frantic, but definitely a little harried, more wound up than you usually see her, with an armful of books and scrolls and boxes of things, as she's running through the shelves and putting things up and taking things down and kind of muttering under her breath, just sort of fussed. She walks right by your guys' table, does not acknowledge you.
Lady Athatria?
She kind of starts and she looks back at you. Her hair is pulled up in her usual silk wrap, and today it's a very pretty floral pattern. And she looks at you, Mateo, and she's like, Oh, Mateo, there you are. Where have you been? I have never been busier. Thank goodness you're here. And as she drops her stack of things on your table, she kind of goes back to fix her drooping head wrap and kind of straightens herself out. Again, looking like she's been kind of run ragged, as she says. No, the last few days have been just so chaotic. I've hardly had time to do really anything here at the library, and just the state of things, just the few days I've been away, absolutely running me insane. I swear none of these aides understand any sort of organizational system that cannot be trusted. You haven't by chance started the pile of requests I left on your desk this morning, have you? It's fine if you haven't. I know I've been asking, honestly, too much of you the last few days, and I say it over and over, and I appreciate you and your efforts, and I just... If you have time this afternoon, I need your keen eye for categorizing things by shape and form and classification.
Yes, it's been a busy morning for me too. I can get to that. I have a question though that hopefully won't take too long.
Yes, of course. What can I do for you?
Is the eye you gave me magic?
Blinks at you. She says, yes, I thought that was obvious.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, my student. When I gifted you this eye, it was more as a charm, as well as a replacement. Any magic on it is relatively weak. This thing is, quite frankly, about 200 years old. It's not anything particularly potent beyond a basic detection spell, but yes, it's more than just a rudimentary glass object. She's kind of looking at you cautiously.
A detection spell?
Yes. That eye was crafted by a master artisan who had a severe case of paranoia, and he imbued each of his artifacts with a detection spell to ward off any sort of evil or threats he perceived towards his craft. He had a terrible fear of people spying on him and stealing his secrets to glasswork. And I acquired this piece when he was going through a particularly rough bout of said paranoia, and so the detection spell of recognizing threats or intentions is perhaps more potent than on some of his other works. Has it been bothering you?
Well, I guess if that's what it's supposed to do, it's doing its job.
Her face softens. Whatever state she was in when she was rushing by earlier, she seems a little bit more grounded now, and she kind of straightens out her skirts and looks you in the eyes, Mateo, and says, I understand that you are not particularly inclined towards magic or magical items, and if I was less than forthcoming about this particular relic, I apologize. And if you would prefer, I'm sure I can get Zepharius to craft an exact replica, no magic involved.
No, that's okay. Thank you. But you know Momori.
Yes, Zepharius's assistant.
Yes, she's with a very clueless man right now, and they have a question for you. I sent them to go looking for you, but they failed at that, I see.
Yes, I'm afraid I've been rather hard to pin down the last couple of days. You know how it is when you step away from one thing, you get consumed by another, and then suddenly you come back to the original thing you were working on, and I had all these projects I wanted to get done, and then the temple exploded, and she kind of waves herself off. She's like, I will seek out Memori and her associate. She gives one last look at you, Mateo, and she says, this whole back section is yours for today. I'm not going to have you bother with the front end of the library. And she rolls her eyes. She's like, the rest of the aides are overwhelmed as is trying to carry the simplest of requests. I don't know why they can't read my handwriting, or they can handle the front end of things. I trust you to take care of this section. And she gives you one last nod and walks back towards the main section of the library, stopping every so often to adjust a shelf or take something down, and she's again back to muttering herself, being like, no, this clearly has to go here and here. She looks at one shelf, she's like, why are my pens here? And keeps walking.
Hildra,
Yep.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't think anyone does right now, buddy.
Uh-huh. Tail looks like deflated right now.
Oh.
I thought I had a theory, but I guess it's wrong.
Kind of theory.
I thought maybe my eye was doing something without me knowing, but I don't think that's what's happening. And now I'm just kind of at square one now.
What kind of things do you think it was doing?
Something that the storm god said. That it wasn't him that did that when the sky just opened up. But it had to have been him.
I mean, have you ever had any kind of magic outbursts in the past, or
What? No,
I'm just asking.
I don't do magic, Sildra.
I mean, it's not really something that you always ask for. It's just a thing.
Well, I don't want it. If it storms, I don't want it. And Mateo starts walking back towards the front of the library.
Should I leave, or you cool with me staying here?
He's not listening.
I had a feeling.
Mateo, you walk off, going towards the main part of the library. And as you do so, a few of the aides are kind of craning their necks, looking up the staircase towards Athatria's closed office door. And they turn back around and see you, Mateo, and they're like, "Oh, look who finally decided to show up for work today. Why are you wet?"
What? Oh, yes, I guess I haven't had time to dry myself from when I got caught in the rain this morning.
One of them kind of laughs at you, and the other smacks him on the arm. He's like, "Really? Okay, well, while you've been out, Lady Athatria has been so kind as to leave us all with just an unreasonable amount to do, quite frankly. And we can't read her writing, and can you please translate?" And they're like shoving papers in your face.
You guys are helpless. Okay, I read the papers.
And it really is very basic instructions of, please put these ancient tomes up on shelf 36 and return artifact AG59 to shelf 42, and a completely inane laundry list of, even you're kind of confused by it, Mateo, seemingly like arbitrary, just like changes. Normally you can kind of see the sense behind Lady Athatria's regular rearrangements to her collection. These ones seem like she's just kind of moving stuff for the sake of moving stuff.
Which one of you put pens in the restricted section?
They look at each other like, "You know we're not allowed back there, golden child."
Mateo just rolls his eyes. Mateo's gonna direct these fools. Give him tasks.
You deliberate and send them off, and for how much you guys generally don't get along, they do seem appreciative to kind of understand what they were told to be doing, as they go off and rearrange essentially the whole first floor of the library, per Athatria's marching orders. And as you do that, Mateo, you start hearing voices coming from Athatria's office. And we are going to really quickly jump to inside that office, where Mamori, Aebis, and Athatria are all gathered. As Mamori and Aebis, you were standing in the front foyer of the library. You saw Lady Athatria coming out of the restricted section, and she makes her way over to you, Mamori, and Aebis explains his mission with his relics, and Athatria, ever the curious mind, invites you both into her office on the second floor. And as you walk your way inside, Mamori, you've never been in her office. Very few people have. It is a microcosm of the rest of the library. It's a relatively large room, but lined floor to ceiling with shelves and wall hangings and artifacts behind glass and perfectly preserved leaflets of text and writing, all in very particular positions, as she sits behind her massive stone-carved desk, just littered with papers and pens and all sorts of books and things, as she leans her head on her fingertips and looks at Aebis and says, "Well, young man, I'm always fascinated to hear about Oh, anthropological studies and inquiries. Please, please, what can I help you with? Are you looking for a particular time period? Are you looking for the region or source? And he's looking, again, just, his eyes are just dinner plates as he takes in all of Athatria's office and, again, all of these relics and every last detail and inch of stonework. And as he's looking around, he looks back at Lady Athatria. You see a look pass over his face, Omori,
Mm-hmm.
as he takes a step back and puts a hand on the hilt of his traveling sword. And now Lady Athatria is kind of looking at him more concerned and looking at Yuma more, and she says, Is there a problem, sir? As Aebis's dinner plate eyes are getting bigger and bigger and just whipping around this office and keep landing on Lady Athatria, as he says, I think I have to go now, and bolts out of the office, runs down the big main staircases. Lady Athatria is looking at you, Momori, and looking out the door.
Momori bolts after him. Yes! Please don't run away! Those aren't scary, they're friends!
He is running past you, Momori, he is running past you, Mateo, and he is out the front doors of the library as everyone in the vicinity is watching this strange man bolting. Lady Athatria comes down the stairs, kind of hand to her chest. She says, I have no idea what I said.
Oh.
He seemed perfectly personable. He just had some questions, correct? Was it something I said or did? She's just kind of bewildered at this behavior. She looks at you, Momori. She's like,
I ran after him.
Why don't you go?
Right? Didn't I?
Oh, you're still going after him.
Oh yeah,
okay.
no, I'm chasing this man. He's my ticket.
He's getting tackled.
Oh my gosh. Do you roll to tackle?
No,
do you want to take him down? Because he's not stopping.
That was my suggestion.
Yeah, no, not roll to tackle. Momori's just gonna follow him. Whatever spooked him, he's not normally like this, so...
Did he leave the relics up there?
Oh no, he's had them clutched in like one arm during that interaction, holding on to them. He did not leave them behind.
Can I see if I notice that? Or is it obvious?
You notice he's holding on to it, but as he is running down the second floor staircase, he's holding one bag in one hand and trying to just keep his balance running downstairs. Mateo, you go over to the staircase where Aebis bolted down out of Athatria's office, and you see he accidentally dropped in his very, very quick exit a pendant in that bag of relics. You pick it up, and it's true to form to the rest of the set. It's a kind of iridescent stone-looking kind of material with a pine-themed engraving in the center of it.
Can I just say I picked this up with a scrap of cloth that I have in my bag because I don't want to touch it directly?
That's fine. You have this weird pendant now, as Momori is racing after Aebis across the estates, and I think he manages to get to just outside of Zephyrius's workshop by the front staircase leading up to the estates before he has to kind of take a knee and catch his breath as he tries to compose himself. And he looks back over at you, Momori, with frightened eyes, or just looking totally freaked out.
Aebis, how, like, what happened back there? Why are you running?
Momori, this is a very important question. And if you don't know the answer, that's fine, but I'm going to need to figure it out. And he straightens up and puts two hands on your shoulders and he says, Mori, how old are the people who own this estate?
Like, pretty old.
Where did they come from?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that last question, but they're like, I don't know. I think they're like pushing a couple hundred.
His face was pale to start with. And you drop that number of a couple 100 years old, and he's going, like, translucent white. And the front door of Zephyrius' workshop is thrown open as he looks out at the two of you and kind of puts up his protective goggles. And he says, Mori, there you are! Kid, get over here. I got something for you to work on. He kind of points a hammer towards Aebis. He's like, you're holding up my assistant. Get out of here. Like, whatever you need from her, just find it somewhere else. Shoo. We have work to do. And Aebis looks at Zephyrius and looks at the door of his shack. And now he's kind of looking all over the estate, like eyes not sitting still, as he's backing away.
Aebis?
He says, "No, Momori, I'm sure there's an explanation for what I'm seeing right now.
Yes, there definitely is. And the teachers are great.
I need a minute.
Yep. Just hang out here for a sec. Zeph, I'll be there in a second, all right? I'm sure whatever you're working on, it can wait just a minute. Just give me a minute to calm my friend down."
What friend? Because as you were speaking with Zephyrius, Aebis bolted out of the estates and he is gone and out of sight.
Freaking A!
The one friend that I had before you scared him away.
Zephyrius walks over to you and he's like, firstly, you have more than one friend, kid. Secondly, I don't think I'm the one to blame for spooking some guy that looks like he's afraid of his own shadow. You can't blame me for that one.
I can and I will. But it's not entirely your fault. It's just the whole of... And she just kind of waves her hands.
What's that supposed to mean? He kind of crosses his arms over his chest.
She waves her hands about, like, just the general vicinity. Just all of this. He just... I don't know, it freaked him out. Anyways, he's kind of important though, Zeph. He's also not from here, and I don't know. I think he could help me out with some stuff. She kind of messes with the collar to her tunic.
Whatever playful mood Zephyrius was in when he first saw you is very quickly replaced with a more quiet concern. He puts a big meaty hand on your back and he says, "Talk about it inside. Come on. You've had a busy couple days, and I've got a big secret project that I need your very important Momori hands on." Come on, kid. As he ushers you inside his workshop. Back in the library, Mateo, you and Athatri are standing in this front lobby. She looks at you, Mateo, and she says, "That was Momori's friend you were telling me about. Is there anything I should know about him?"
Well, he's some kind of historian, and I think he might have found more history here than he was hoping to find. But he did have these. And Mateo shows her the pendant.
She takes the pendant in hand and kind of holds it up to the light and is squinting at it. And her face goes from a curious inspection to a very still, wide-eyed kind of look. She looks at you, Mateo, very seriously. She says, "We need to get him back here. Now."
Story Hoard is produced by Grace, Maddie, Margaret, and Kev. Our theme song was written and composed by Vocal Outburst. Follow for updates and artwork on Twitter and Tumblr at StoryHoardPod, or visit our website at storyhoard.card.co. You can find all these links and more in the description of this episode.
Centipede?
Yeah, I didn't get it. I just, it crawled up the wall and was like eye level with me, and I had to run downstairs, get a flip flop, and I smacked it as hard as I could, and it still lived.
No!
And it went crawling down the wall, and I smacked it again, and I just went further, and it's just the immortal centipede. It's my worst nightmare.
Oh, Jesus, no!
I hate it.
Oh no.
Gross. I'm like sitting with my feet tucked in on my chair.
Yeah, my coworkers were talking about how they kept seeing like more bugs, and I think it's a season where bugs are like, "Hey, your house looks nice and warm and comfy. Mind if I come in and stay here forever?"